and welcome to my first Delta book club. I'm going to be reading through some books in preparation for my Delta, and I would love for you to read along with them with me. If you read the books before, fabulous. If this is your first time, gorgeous as well. The first book I'm looking at is Sound Foundations, and this video is just having read the introduction, my first thoughts. Sound Foundations was written by Adrian Underhill, published in 1994 by Macmillan Publishers Limited. This is my thoughts and my summary on Adrian Underhill's fantastic work. My name is Catherine Speed. It's lovely to meet you. First of all, let's get started. So, in the introduction, Adrian Underhill has these pillars for the book, these concepts. He wants his work to be experiential. Fabulous word, love to say that word. He wants it to be physical, insightful, quick, humanistic, practical, and lasting. I love to take one of these words or a couple of these words and use them as my mantra for that lesson. I think it's a really good way to start my class, to go in and say, today our work is going to be extremely experiential. And put the focus on experimenting. Makes a nice objective, makes teaching easier. The chart is designed for received pronunciation British English. That's not true, it's not designed for that. It's kind of designed around received pronunciation British English because it's the most universal, I think, not necessarily because it's the one we should all be striving for, which certainly isn't true. Adrian Underhill stresses that we are the models of pronunciation, so whatever pronunciation you have, you are modeling for your students, which is fabulous, and all the variations are gorgeous and wonderful and should be respected. There's also a version of American English, which I have seen on the Macmillan website, but I do not understand. So if anyone does understand the American English version of it, please leave me a comment or show me a website. Send me a message, let me know, because I would love to know more about it. At the moment, it's just a strange alien thing. And it didn't exist at the time of when Sound Foundations was published. So he also introduces a new word for us. Phoneme is the smallest variation in sound that makes a difference in meaning. For example, the sound p and the sound b. The variation in sound is very small, so small a lot of particularly Arabic students can't detect it because it's not present in their native language. One is voiced, one is unvoiced, but it makes a huge difference in meaning. For example, if you have the word path and the word bath, they are not the same thing. Very, very different in meaning if you get the wrong sound by mistake. However, an allophone is a small variation that does not change the meaning. For example, when you say the word peel, the p in that, your lips are quite wide. And when you say pool, your lips are quite rounded. But there's no difference between p and p. I'm making a different face, but you can't tell because it's a narrated PowerPoint presentation. Maybe I'll do the video in the future. Maybe not. He also talks about where things are in the chart, but he talks about it very briefly, and I think we're going to go in more detail in the following chapters. So I'm not going to go into detail here, also because he didn't provide any details in the introduction, so that would be spoilers. He also talks about what chart to use. This is the kind of chart that he designed. We've got monophthongs up here, diphthongs up here, consonants down here. If you have no idea those words I just said, don't worry, we're going to learn about them in the future, I presume. As you can see, Adrian's chart is very blank and maybe a little bit bland. They're just the symbols in an order. This is something that he's absolutely done on purpose. You can get versions of the chart that have sample words. For example, here we've got E, and beneath it we've got read. I know a lot of people that use this, and they find it a really good way of linking the physical sound to an idea, and it stops the chart being a confusing thing where you just see symbols and feel overwhelmed. You know, you see something you recognize, so it's a little more comforting. On the other hand, sometimes it's not good, because if the student isn't pronouncing the word correctly, for example, if they're pronouncing but as boot, there is no point having but here. That doesn't help them pronounce the sound. They'll just get muddled between the two, is Adrian Underhill's thoughts. So it's not necessarily a brilliant idea, in his opinion. Also, it could be a little stressful for students. For example, students, maybe Thai students who struggle with the ch sound typically. Is it kind of us to put two ch sounds next to each other? Church is quite a stressful sound. So do we want them to be looking at this symbol and then having this stressful sound to say? Is it overwhelming? Is it confusing? These are all questions that he poses. You can also use pictures. This one is taken from Oxford University Press English File Pronunciation version 1.1. It's an app I took from iTunes. This is actually the American English one, which is why I don't really understand it. I assume this is like like chur, but my American accent is terrible, so please enlighten me if you have more information. The fun thing about this is they take a sound like z and they make it into a little zebra, or a zebra if you're American, which is fun because the picture kind of links to the symbol. So perhaps it helps you remember the symbol a little better. It makes the symbol a little more friendly or fun. The downside, of course, being if you can't pronounce z, maybe you pronounce it as tz, like a lot of, for example, Japanese students do, then it's not useful having a picture. The other drawback that Adrian Underhill talks about is that a lot of the pictures are cultural. These images are very bound by culture, so is it useful to have a picture next to it? Would you necessarily know that this is chess if you don't play chess? Would you know that this is jazz? You know, are these things confusing or are they useful? A witch, for example, that seems a very, very cultural reference. I'm not picking apart these pictures at all because I love them. I think they're fabulous, and they're another tool for remembering the words. Also, what a gorgeous snake. Come on, this is lovely. Maybe it makes them look a little bit more friendly, a little less formal, which is a very good thing, but it's not without drawbacks. Underhill also talks about other charts which have color changes. You can separate your chart in colors, for example, for monophthongs and diphthongs. Again, if you don't know what that is, no problem, we're going to go through it. And then you've got consonants down here. You can have voiced and unvoiced, for example, p, no voice, b, nice and loud. Personally, I'm against color because I'm colorblind. So this color is the same as this. So this key is completely redundant to me. I understand it because I know what a diphthong is, but otherwise I'd be screwed. And there's a lot of other people in the world who are colorblind, so maybe not a fabulous idea. Another thing you can do with color, which is cool, is if you have a monolingual class, you can highlight all the sounds that they're going to find difficult, or that they're likely to find difficult, or that don't exist in their native language. That's a fun thing to do because it kind of brings their attention to them. However, perhaps that's a little too prescriptive. Is it right for us to say, you're going to find this sound hard? Does that make it daunting? Does that, is that setting them up for failure? I don't know how I feel about it. Is it a little condescending? I don't know. Also, it doesn't work so well in multilingual classes, and these days a lot of people are multilingual. Yeah, well, I don't know if that works. Can people be multilingual? Anyway, a lot of people are polyglots, so they may have come across the sounds in other languages that they happen to be learning, because we're all getting better and better at languages. Isn't that a fabulous thing? So yeah, color coding, not necessarily the way to go, but maybe a fabulous idea for your student to do. So rather than being prescriptive about it and giving them a thing that says voiced and unvoiced, maybe we give them the chance, we get them to explore for themselves, you know, have a think about it, have an explore, and for yourself circle the ones that are voiced and unvoiced. Obviously there is a right and a wrong with that aspect, but the very process of thinking about it is a beneficial thing to do. So maybe that would be a better idea. Perhaps you can get your students to highlight the ones that they find difficult. Or perhaps you could get them to highlight the ones that are formed in the back of the throat or the front of the throat. Maybe we can use color coding as a tool for them to explore, rather than a chart that's ready-made for them. You know, it's like, is it spoon feeding them? That's the idea, I think. My personal preference is to have a laminated version of the phonemic chart, and I write on it when we're going through it with a board pen. So if I want it to look friendlier, I might draw my own little picture based on an example that they give me. And then I can rub it off at the end of the lesson, and it's blank for the next student who doesn't know what an emu is, for example. That's a really beneficial thing to do, and it makes it quite tailored and special and personal, and it's going to link that memory into their head better than if I gave it to them. Underhill's recommendation is to use post-it notes. You can get the student themselves to use post-it notes, perhaps, for example, words or for pictures or for colour changes. The reason he stresses post-it notes as a good idea is because he wants it to be temporary. These are ways for accessing the chart, not, you don't want to be relying on them. You want to be able to understand the symbols yourself. So says Adrian Underhill. In terms of using the chart, Adrian recommends that you have it on permanent display in the classroom at all times. If you don't have your own classroom, or your school is used for other things, or you don't have the resources to put up a poster of the phonetic chart, then maybe you could laminate your own copy, keep it in your books, and as soon as you get to class, take out your laminated copy and have it open on the table. Its very presence in the classroom will remind students that it's a thing. It will make it less daunting when you get it out if it's there all the time, because it's very much like an idea that we turn to pronunciation in the same way that we turn to the grammar page and everyone goes, oh, because they don't want to do any, because they have apprehensions, they have a concept of what the lesson is going to be like. If you've got it on permanent display, it reiterates the fact that this is a permanently present aspect of the language, that this is, you can't learn English without linking it to pronunciation. It's an integral part. So having it on permanent display is a good idea. Also, they can point to it whenever they want. Underhill says that the chart is like a map. In the same way that you wouldn't go home at night and study a map unless you were going on a journey, or you'd just been on a journey, you don't want to just sit and focus on the chart. In the same way that you see, you've walked through mountains and you have a look at the chart and you have a look at the map and you see where the mountains are and you see where you came from. In the same way that you see that up ahead is a lake and then you physically walk to the lake. It's a tool for seeing where you came from and where you're going. It is an anchor in the physical world to the concepts and the experience that you're going through in the physical world. It is a way of linking what's happening in your mouth, what's happening in your brain, to something you can write down in biro. The most important bit is the experience and the ideas and the stuff that you're exploring. The chart is not the important thing. The chart is not the thing. The thing is the learning, and it's just a tool for writing down and putting on paper and in black and white these ideas that you have. He recommends pointing and speaking. So pointing to something on the chart and then saying it, or having your students point to it and saying it, or you can speak and then point. So you introduce a new word and you say, what's that sound in the middle? What's that stressed sound Enormous. What's that or? What vowel sound is that? You get them to point to it. No, that's enamus. Is that right? Enormous? Enamus? Do they sound the same? Anyway, I'm sure you're doing this all already, but that's what I like to do. Adrian Underhill says that there are levels of using the chart. Level 1 is awareness, and you bring in an awareness of the sound and how you make the sound. And you practice it on its own and you have a concept of it. Level 2 then is introducing individual words, because the sounds are affected by the rest of the words. The way that you say lamp and the way that you say loo will be different. Oh, by the way, I should explain what a loo is if I'm going to use it as an example. A lot of people don't know that a loo is an informal way of saying the toilet. It's a bit weird to say I'm going to the toilet. It's not that weird, but it is a bit weird. If you say I'm going to the loo, it's more informal. It's a little bit more of a euphemism. They don't use it in America, as far as I'm aware. I think it's just Britain where we use this loo word, which I love, by the way. One of my favourite words. Is it my favourite? No, that's a bit weird. I had a student who was Japanese. We'll call them student H. Together we explored the la sound quite a lot, as you can imagine, because la is a very difficult phoneme for Japanese students typically. And we spent loads of time looking at la, look, lamp, bottle, all of these, light and dark, loads and loads of stuff. And then in fluency exercises, he was still having a problem with la. And I realised it's because he was having a problem when we use it in adverbs, because the sound li is really hard, and it's the way you make the la sound is affected by the e sound. You need to keep your mouth wide from the start, li. So then we went back and we looked at loads of adverbs. And then we had another difficulty where we had consonant clusters, like loads of consonants came together at the end of the adverbs, which is really, really difficult. Like quickly, that k, l, e, that is tough. So then we went through loads of consonant cluster adverbs. So definitely it was really helpful to go through a massive variety of individual words, because the sounds are so affected by the other sounds. Then level 3, as Adrian says, is connected speech. So how your intonation affects the sound, how connection between the sounds have an effect, how emphasizing what you want to emphasize and where you want to emphasize it has an effect on how you produce the phoneme. So you want to move to level 3 so that they have flexibility about the way that they use it. He also introduced a new term, which I got to be honest, I don't completely understand. The new term is a tone unit, the energy package held by a pattern of pitch and prominence. Honestly, I think I find the definition more confusing than the name. I think, as far as I understand it, a tone unit is a unit of speech kind of determined by the pitch and the pattern, the intonation and the emphasis. So basically a speech unit. I would call it a speech unit. If you have a better definition than that, please comment it below. I would love to read it. So our glossary. Can you remember what an allophone is? It is a sound, is a variation in sound which never changes the meaning. So the difference between p and p. No difference, even though you form it slightly different. There's no word where getting the wrong one is wrong. And phoneme, which is a variation in sound which does change the meaning. Basically, it's a sound as we know it. Then we've got tone unit, which, as I said, is an energy package held by pattern of pitch and prominence. If you have a better definition, please, please, please comment it, because I want to hear it. A little review. Oh my goodness, the first one is done. This has taken a freakishly long amount of time to produce this video, so if you like it, if you found it helpful and you want me to make more, then please like and subscribe. I will take your liking and your subscribing as a sign that you want more, and then I will continue to put this effort in. Otherwise, I will lock myself in my study and just read the books. But I thought it would be more fun this way, to all get involved. If you agree that it is more fun, please like, please subscribe, and turn on the notification button if you want to know when the next video is up. My plan is to do them weekly, but honestly, anything could happen. I am absolutely still learning. I've not read Sound Foundations before. Not everything I say is going to be correct, which is why I really recommend reading the book yourself, because then you can check that my thoughts match your thoughts, and you can form your own thoughts based on what he's written. I don't necessarily understand the author's meaning. I don't know Adrian Underhill personally, although he did used to work at the school I work at, I think. A lot of my colleagues know him well. So if you have any corrections because you know it before, because you've read this book before, you have a better understanding, this is your field and you really know what you're talking about when it comes to Sound Foundations, then please do tell me about it in the comments. As teachers, we're used to telling people black and white answers because it's kind of our job to come up with our ideas, and we're all very passionate about our ideas and finding the best way to explain it to people and the best way of teaching. In the comments, please remember that everyone is passionate about their ideas. There is no right or wrong, and we all need to be, I think the comments discussions will go much smoother if we all stay open-minded and excited to learn other people's ideas, and remember that, you know, no matter how much you've looked into something, that doesn't necessarily make it the better answer. All answers are good and worth thinking about. So please join me in this comment section, particularly with these questions. Have you read Sound Foundations? Did you enjoy it? Do you have any other things? What were the biggest takeaways? Why is it a great book to read? Why is it on the essentials list for Delta? What do you love about it? Or maybe you hate it. What do you hate about it? Are your foundations sound? Why? And which version of the chart do you like to use and why? Just because Adrian doesn't like pictures doesn't mean you can't use pictures. Why do you love pictures? Is it really important to you that the students are met with something friendly and joyful? I just put words in your mouth, but you know what I mean. I'm sorry if I'm condescending and I'm sorry if I'm using a lot of jargon. Please let me know in the comments if there's too much jargon. If you found this video too fast and you're a bit stressed about understanding what I'm saying so quickly, then click the little settings bar, click speed, and click 0.75 or 0.5. I don't want to slow down my speech because this is my natural speech. If there are terms that I haven't explained, please let me know about that. If I'm speaking just too quickly, turn the speed down. I always turn the speed up because I'm a maniac and I drink too much coffee, so I listen to everything on 2 times speed. Well, it's in my name after all. Excellent. If you enjoyed this, please like and subscribe. I hope to see you again next chapter.